So I used it in my programming class where like me and some of my programming friends, we didn't have to be in the same place. We used Google Docs. So we could write all our code in a Google Doc and then you, like edit and debug the code while being, on break or in different parts of the world. So that was really helpful. Um, and then Google Hangouts for like talking to each other because everybody with a St. Mary's account has a Google Hangout. So is there anything else you'd like me to talk about, Rita?
About that. So we have two questions.
Yes.
You can see me. Okay. So the first question is, how did you use Google Hangouts as a student?
As a student?
For homework. For homework.
For homework, I actually this semester there's some like nice plugins. I know there's like LaTeX and stuff, but Google Docs has some nice plugins for like if you're trying to write math for like writing matrices and stuff. So I actually used it for all my written homework in math this year.
Yeah. She specifically asked about Google Hangouts. How did you use Google Hangouts?
I am sorry. Oh, I use it. I use Google Hangouts to like communicate with other classmates. Like if we need to discuss like a project that we have assigned, or I used it a lot in coding class to talk with other programmers, about ideas because we'd have to like construct this program and be like, we usually have a big program over the break actually, so everybody would go home, but we'd still be able to talk to each other using Google Hangouts. There's also some nice features in Google Hangouts like a screen share, so somebody could be writing their code and then actually just broadcast their screen to the Google Hangout so we could see what they're working on, which is super useful.
So, Bryce, did you see there's a LaTeX plugin?
No, it's not LaTeX, but there's plugins like LaTeX, other third-party programs.
I think there is actually.
There might be. Yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions for Bryce? Yes.
So, Bryce, both the homework that you did with Google Docs and the Google Hangout, that can be captured and turned in as evidence that you guys were working as a group?
That can be what? Sorry?
Captured and turned in as evidence that you guys worked together as a group?
Yeah, absolutely. If you wanted, you could do a Hangouts on air like we're doing now, and then show the teacher like, hey, we worked on it together, here's the YouTube video. Or with the Google Doc, you can actually see the revisions and who wrote what, and it highlights it if you go into that option. So you can definitely prove and show who did what work and how much. It's pretty nice.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
One more question.
Yeah.
Yes.
How'd you schedule your Hangout sessions? Did you just know other guys were working and you just tapped them online, or did you plan it ahead of time?
We planned it ahead of time. You can actually have it set up so you can make a calendar event. Like in class, we planned, okay, like 5 o'clock this night, we're gonna get on Hangouts and we're gonna do this assignment. And so I would create like a Google Calendar event where you can have it set up to automatically start a Google Hangout and invite those people at that time. So that's one way we did it.
All right, so thank you, Bryce. I'm going to switch off of you, but please hang out and go to Feroez.
All right.
Hi.
Hi, Feroez. You are up. Can you please share with us how you use Google Hangouts as a student, but also because you run a whole bunch of clubs on campus? So if you could look at that and talk about that as well.
Yeah, definitely. So Google Hangouts has been especially useful for us. I wasn't a POTS, I was one of the executive members this year. We use it a lot when we're all in different places, especially. It's a really good chat tool when it comes to not having to meet in one central location with everyone and having to deal with making sure that one schedule is the same as another schedule and meet in a central location and texting. It's much easier to just go on Hangouts and just chat through there and then figure out what you need to be doing for the rest of the week club-wise. I also, same as Bryce, use it for communicating with people who are in my class. What's nice is that with Hangouts, you can also be working, you can also be working on another like Google Doc or Google presentation with your people and then simultaneously talk with them on Google Hangouts. So it's nice that you can get like a collaboration, like a real-time collaboration with speaking with people, as well as using the documents or editing the documents that you need to in order for the class. So I just found it like super helpful when it comes to chatting with people or chatting with students in order to make sure that your projects or your clubs are being successful.
Do you have any questions for Feroez?
I have
Carl.
a question. How often were your chat sessions with like one person, and how often were there two or more in your conversations?
Well, our exec team for APASA is usually like 7 or 8 people. So we, especially with Hangouts, we just had everyone come on and then we chat with everyone. It's a little, I don't think, for us, I don't think there was a point where we had 1 or 2 people. As many times we had multitudes of people because there's just so many of us.
Another question, please. Yes.
Hi, just a follow-up to that. When you do have that many people and even more, how do you manage the conversation so that you don't have a plethora of conversation going on at once?
Well, usually we try to have someone be a mediator. Usually that's like the president of our club, just so that it goes a little smoother. So what we'll do is he'll speak or pose a question or something or say something, and then he'll be like, okay, can Feroez, can you respond? Or someone else in our club, can you respond? And then from there, we just go down in the line basically. Or if someone else is talking at the same time as another person, we just be courteous and let them speak over us and then go afterwards. I feel like sometimes it can get a little bit cluttered if everyone's talking at the same time, but as long as you set like a pair of ground or a set of ground rules, I think it works perfectly fine.
So it's a matter of more and more experience to understand that taking turns.
Yeah, I mean, it comes with everything though. Making sure that you're experienced with everything and making sure that you take time to learn as well the program, because it is very easy to learn, but I mean, it does take a little bit of time. So I'd say like play around with it and see what it can do is your best option when it comes to learning about the program itself.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes.
Do you have you had any experiences in the classroom where your instructors have interviewed people off-site and the whole class has watched it and then it's recorded on YouTube?
No, we have not. I have personally not had that experience yet with my teachers. But I'd really like to. That'd be really cool.
That would be cool, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I love being able to put it directly onto YouTube without you having to upload the file.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, file uploads to YouTube, especially if they're more than an hour and they're on a nice camera, can take a very long time.
But this is in real time uploading to YouTube?
It's actually being streamed, but we'll get to that.
Wow.
Yeah. Any other questions at this point? I'm going to check in and see if that client's not there anymore and we can pull in. Oh, somebody has a question? Who has a question? Bryce has a question. All right, we're going over to you, Bryce.
Okay, I was just gonna also chime in because it doesn't quite exactly your question, but I had a sociology class where I actually Google Hangouts on air my person I was interviewing and was able to save the interview that way and turn it into my professor. And they actually said that they really liked it and they're probably gonna make it that way for everybody in the future.
So Zach, are you ready to talk?
Yes.
All right, so if you could please talk about how you use Google Docs as a student and anything else you think instructors might want to know about Google Hangouts, Google Apps, Google Docs.
So for myself, I have a Chromebook, which is it's a laptop. Best way it's like an iPad with a keyboard basically, because it doesn't have like a hard drive. Everything is hooked up to the internet. So I use Google Drive applications all the time. I basically live on there because I do all my scheduling through Google Calendar, and then I use Google Docs to write my so. Anyways, so I live on Google Drive, so I do all my essays through Google Docs. Any type of notes that I'm taking, because I can pull them up side by side on my computer, and have them and type it. And then I like it a lot because I can make comments on, things I write. So if I highlight it, I can make a little comment, and then I can send it to, my classmates to edit it. And then so they don't need to be in the same room with me, and we can even be chatting and whatnot, which is what I did a lot this year, in years past. And so, and then some of my professors, I would share it with them, like Tutor Deval or Tutor Ham. Like Tutor Deval would use it directly on Google Drive. He would just make comments. But Tutor Ham, she would print those out because she would like to write her comments on paper. So if you don't like to, do it on the computer, it's very easy. You just print it out. And so, but it's an easy way to, so people don't have to turn it in. You have that option. And so that's what I would do a lot of, is turn it in like that. And then for Hangouts, Hangouts are awesome because it's just easy to talk to people. It's relatively easy to use and just to invite people, and for anything, whether, just communicating with projects and whatnot. And so that's the best thing, is using them with projects, because I can type it, me.
All right, you have a question? We have two.
You could answer this, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So can he turn his device and walk around with it so that we could see the environment in which he's working?
Yes.
So, if I were interviewing in the classroom, the morning news anchor at KCBS, could you walk around and show us all of the equipment that he uses? We could feel like we're in the room with him.
Here we go. Come back here, Zach.
Without losing the audio quality.
Right. Can you turn your computer around? That's where they're at.
Okay.
That's my office in the library. So there you go. So yes, you can.
And if he were using a mobile device, obviously it would be even better.
Could you be out in the field on your phone doing this? Yes. But make sure you have a great cellular signal. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
My question is, what is he seeing? What are these individuals seeing?
They get to choose what they see.
Oh.
There's a lot of ways to set this room up. I did it this way. Yeah. We could also be having chat over here on the, you're going to learn all about that. All right, cool. Can you talk about how you use Google Apps as a student, please?
I use it on my phone a lot because I don't usually bring my laptop to school. And so I use the Google Docs on my phone to type up my homework whenever I'm outside of a computer lab. So I use that pretty much all the time. And I do all of my homework assignments on Google Docs and on Google Drive because I commute and I don't want to bring my stuff with me every day. And every group project I've ever done has been on Google Docs. I've never used any other format for it because we all work together at the same time and utilize like all of the highlighting and all of the coloring systems so that we can work together. And I use Google Hangouts with that as well so that we can be talking and writing at the same time. That's what I do for the most part.
Yes.
So, Seth, you're saying that you type long documents on your iPhone?
Sometimes.
Yeah. I see now why there's so many typos. Maybe not, yours are probably perfect, but I get these, 600-word articles and they've got all kinds of typos in them.
So I was actually sitting at dinner and my daughter had a math assignment, and the next day it was a collaborative math assignment, and they were doing it while we were out to dinner on her phone. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll usually write most of it if I can on my phone, and then I'll get on and do all the corrections on Google Docs on a computer. But especially if I don't have my laptop with me, it works pretty well. It's sort of frustrating, but sometimes it's just easier to do it that way.
One more question.
Hi, Seth. Do you also do Hangouts on your phone?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
Then the OS has to be pretty powerful phone then, right?
I use an Android and it works perfectly with it because it's Google based. It really likes Google Hangouts. But I guess it would work better kind of the newer phone you have in a sense because it's more prepared for it. Like my phone came with it installed, I believe.
Thank you.
Any other questions for any of our gentlemen here?
Yeah. What's the longest distance over which you hung out with somebody? Longest physical distance?
Okay, we're going to go to Bryce. Make sure you're not muted and say hello. You're muted.
Hello. Sorry. I was in New York a while back with the choir at Carnegie Hall, and I actually was able to Google Hangout my family back in Washington. So pretty much as far as you can get in the United States. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, please.
I would like to hear how their professors are using the Google apps in a way that these students really like and engage with.
Awesome. Okay, so if I could, I'm going to start with Bryce and go down the line. And the question is, are your professors using Google Apps, and how? If so, how? And what part you liked the most, which was engaging as well. So Bryce, you're up because I have you on screen.
I personally have always wished my professors would use the Google Apps more. I feel like they don't. I don't know. It makes me really. I've had some professors though that will upload, like Professor Sauerberg. He'd upload programming assignments on Google Hangouts with the intention of, like, in class he'd upload an assignment and we could divide the assignment in class among each other. So like live collaboration. I really like that. I find it works really well if professors put their study guides up on Google Docs, because then students can study together in a live environment and collaborate together. I found those have been the most helpful study sessions.
All right, if you could mute yourself, Feroez, I'm going to go to you next. Say hello. I can't hear you yet. Unmute yourself up at the top. No? I'll go to Seth while you figure that out. Is that okay?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, now we can hear you. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Feroez, did you hear the question, my dear?
Yeah.
Right.
I know for a fact that one of my math teachers, she used it as a way for her to gauge who was doing a group project. So she would be the creator of a Google Doc, and then we would all have to edit within the Google Doc all of our project so that she could exactly figure out who put what portion into the project. And it really helps with accountability, seeing who put in work and who didn't put in work, which was a big thing, especially in our class, because there was people who weren't working and there were people who were working their butts off. So I think it's a very good tool when it comes for teachers to figure out accountability, especially for projects, because there's sometimes when doing projects, there's people who do work and there's people who don't do work. So I really appreciate it when teachers use it as a tool in order to make sure and to control that students are actually working at that college level. I personally haven't had an experience yet where teachers have uploaded documents like Google Docs. I'd love to see. Previously, I had a bio class this year, and all of his lectures were through PowerPoint presentations. I think it would be so great if they would upload those PowerPoint presentations to Google Slides. That would be so great, because you could just download the slides and then you can look at them through Google Docs. It's just like, oh, that'd be so great.
We got it. All right. Yeah.
What's the difference between having it in Google Docs and having it in Google? That's the slide.
That's a great question. Did you hear that question? What's the difference between having it in Moodle versus having it in Google Docs?
So within Moodle, especially when you go onto mystmarys/ca.edu, when you go on Moodle, there's like, you have to go to your class, and then from your class you have to go to the section. Maybe it's on in Moodle, and then you have to click on it. It's just a lot of steps to get to one thing. Especially with with Google Slides, or if your teacher already has like kind of like a folder within Google Drive, which they share with the whole class, they can have like, they can basically within the folder have a subfolder that says slides, and then have all the slides in one folder. So you can have slides for say the beginning of the semester all the way to the end of the semester through Google Slides, and then just click on the one that you need, and you can download it immediately. It kind of takes away from doing like maybe like a 5 or 6 step process in Moodle to getting to that one slide, to then having all the slides in one central location. It's just a little simpler, and it's a little bit more easy when it comes to downloading and viewing the slides. Because sometimes that's also a thing, is that teachers will have slides, but in like a PowerPoint or the Mac version, which sometimes, like for me on my computer, I don't have PowerPoint, so I can't download and view a PowerPoint presentation on my computer. I have to go to the library and use those computers. So if it's on Google Docs, though, you can access it as long as you have internet. You can view it online. So that's a very great tool when it comes to not having something on your computer that you can read online.
And when I post slides, I post them as PDFs. Are PDFs easier?
I mean, it would all depend if you have some type of PDF viewer on your computer. I know for a fact my computer does, but I'd probably assume that every computer does. I don't know. That's kind of like a very broad assumption, but if not, then I'd have to say that students would have to go to the library lab or some other computer in order to view the PowerPoint or the presentation you're trying to show to your class.
Okay, so I'm going to take a few more questions. Seth, I'm going to freeze. I'm going to mute you and just put up other students so they can answer. Seth, I'm going to put you on. If you could mute yourself, awesome. Seth, you're live up on the big screen, and we have a few questions. So here we go. Okay.
I want to know if they have professors actually interact with them, give them feedback either on personal homework, let's say, or group projects. Or if that doesn't happen, do they wish it would happen, or do they think there's a lot of value?
Could you hear that, Seth?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have never had a professor interact with me on Google Docs or use Google Docs or Drive in any way, shape, or form. But I know Zach has, so he might have a better answer for you. I would appreciate if they did, because it would make it super simple to just look at it, look at their comments, and then either edit from that or kind of see what they have to say, because a lot of times I've had issues with the professors and the Moodle not working correctly with like the commenting, and either because they've messed up or I've downloaded it wrong or clicked the wrong button, or if Moodle crashes sometimes. It's all kind of unpredictable, and I don't know for sure if I'm going to be able to see the comments. And then also once they've made the comments, it's kind of just a dead document, versus if it was in Google Docs and I saw their comments, I could comment under, you can reply to that comment. Like if they said, this doesn't make sense, I could be like, oh, well, this is what I was thinking. And we could have a small conversation either now or later, or throw it in a Google chat if they're there as well. And that would make it easier to actually communicate about it, versus it just kind of being on the Moodle document. And then I have to take that, I have to like print that or bring that by computer to see them and say, hey, you said this, but I disagree, which is really cumbersome, versus it just being on the Google document and being able to message them immediately about it.
Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Owen.
A question about intellectual property rights. And if these are on Google Docs, for instance, is that just in our local intranet, or is that exactly?
How is that document shared?
Yes.
There you go. What permissions did you put on it? Okay. Who can see that? Yes.
Two questions. Any of you can answer this, but would you like it if your professors were available to hang out during office hours?
Did you guys hear that question? I'm seeing heads go yes. Okay. Okay, and then part two to that question.
Part two is, okay, you are all tech cafe folks, and so you're tech savvy. do you have any sense of how, say, our typical St. Mary's student uses these Google facilities?
I know a lot do because it's so accessible based on the internet, and because we have internet everywhere on campus, we can literally go anywhere and be working on our documents. And a lot of students bring their laptops, and that way they can immediately access it versus trying to pull up a USB or a flash drive and then downloading it to the computer, working it on the computer, downloading it back onto the flash drive, taking the flash drive wherever. I don't honestly see a lot of people using flash drives. It's a lot less common since there is such an easily accessible internet-based document, and then it literally is pulled up anywhere, any computer, any phone. There's a lot of security behind that, so I know even if my computer crashes, it's still going to be accessible anywhere else. So I know almost all of my friends use it, and a lot of people.
Did anybody else want to say anything to that?
Just to bounce off that, you also with St. Mary's, this just happened this year, you have an unlimited amount of storage space on Google Drive. So I use it a lot for like storing all my school files and like backing up my old homework assignments. And I know other students do that too.
My comment to that would be the high school students use Google. So they're coming in already pre-trained on Google. Not all of them. You bet there's probably 10% that don't. Yeah.
And my experience with, the high school kids too. So my experience with the high school kids and also a lot of St. Mary's students is if there's any frustration that they have as far as technology goes, it's what they might consider old technology, because they are using Google Docs. That's what they use. So they would probably consider the Microsoft Office suite old technology. That's old, that stuff. And you're making them do something that is not normal for them. What is normal is Google Docs for them. So, yeah.
All right, so I know that they have to go move because they're on campus somewhere and today's moving day. So is there any one final last question, and then I'm going to set a move? Yes.
If any of them could tell us anything, what would they tell us?
Ooh, so Bryce, you're still on screen, just FYI. So what's the one thing you want your professors to know about Google Apps?
Mainly I try to tell them as much as I can that they exist and how to get to them. I mean, really though, it's just like I have a lot of professors that were like, "How'd you guys collaborate on this?" And I'm like, "Oh, Google Docs." And they're like, "What are Google Docs?" And I like tell them about that. They're like, "Oh, that's so cool. Why haven't I heard of that before?" So I guess just like trying to get the word out as much as possible. That would be the one thing I could ask is if you spread the word, let people know that they exist and they're awesome.
Did you want to hear that from more than one? Or?
Yes.
Okay, so Bryce, I'm going to turn you off, and Feroez, you're up next. What's the one thing you want instructors to know about Google Apps?
Oh, that they're awesome. Super. I really enjoy using them, and it's always nice to be using like a new one. Like this year, I hadn't used Google Slides yet, and I finally used it this year, and it's super intuitive, very easy to use. I'd probably say just if you haven't looked at it yet, to just look at it and just play around with it. I mean, there's like the summertime now, so it's like a perfect opportunity to learn something new. And Google, they make it so that it's easy to learn, and that if you want to go deeper into understanding how to use the documents, that you can do that. That there is more advanced things to do within Google Documents or Google Slides or the Excel kind of Google application. But if you're just a beginner, then it's perfect for beginners. If you're intermediate, same thing. It goes with you. So it's only as fast as you can learn it. But it's definitely a tool that should be utilized because it's just so helpful.
So if you could, if there's one thing you want a professor or instructor to know about using Google Apps, now's your chance to tell them.
That it would be really appreciated if you would do that. Because it would be really helpful to be able to communicate easier and faster, because sometimes I know I wait like a day or two before I get responses about like, if I have a thesis or I have whatever questions, and if they had a time period, say like, hey, I'm just going to be on Google Hangouts, you don't even have to come because I commute. So setting up the office hours is really hard for me because I'm in class and I'm working. So if there was like an evening time, a professor even at home could just be like, hey, can we talk for like 15 minutes? That would be really, really helpful for me to be able to access that at any time, have that conversation instead of having to wait until class and then kind of being like, yeah, I'm not really sure if this is what you wanted because I wasn't able to communicate with you because I wasn't even here for your entire office hours week because I was in class or at home or commuting. So I think that would be really important for professors to know.
Thank you, Seth. If you can,
That you can anything you would like to do, you can do it. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do. There's a Google app called Google Classroom that Tutor Duvall uses. He's an excellent professor if you'd like to talk to him. He has a lot of different things that he does, like office hours where you click on a link and then you click the time that you like, and then it goes into his calendar and then it goes into my Google Calendar because St. Mary's, once you have your email and everything, we all have all the Google apps. So it pops into his calendar, and I walked into his office. He didn't even know I was supposed to be there, but I had my appointment time scheduled. So he's like, "Okay, cool. You have this time slot. You know, what do you need?" And so there's a lot of different things that you can do to set it up. And even like Feroez said, it can be as low level technology as you want it, or it can be very advanced. And so it varies, and they're really useful, really helpful, and it's just like I think again it's a good skill to learn over the summer because I have friends. I had a girl who she had never heard of Google Docs before she came to St. Mary's, so we some of even my classmates don't know what it is, but we can all learn, and so that's something just to being willing to learn and everything to do all that stuff.
all right, so at this point, I'm going to say thank you guys very, very much. We're going to sign off, and thank you for taking time on your busy day.
No problem.
Bye-bye.